Chapter 1: The Nature and Relevance of Research. Research has been recognized as a vital tool for solving man's multifarious problems and making his life richer and fuller. In fact, the modern convenience we are enjoying today are the product of researches undertaken by scientists and professionals from various disciplines. Today, research has become an integral part of all learning areas known to man. Public and private educational, business, and industrial organizations have been touched by research process. In this chapter, we are going to look at the nature and relevance of research. After studying this chapter, you should be able to define research in your own words, explain the different characteristics of research as a process, identify and expound the different ways of knowing, prove that research is the most valid way of gaining knowledge, explicate the different types of research and their use in actual research situation, and point out and discuss sequential steps in research process. The meaning of research from the word research is derived from the prefix re, which means to repeat or redo, and the root word search, which means to find or look for. From the foregoing etymology of this word, research literally means to repeat looking for something which had been in existence before. No? Let us examine how research has been defined by experts. According to Mason and Bramble 1989, research is concerned with finding answers. It is a systematic, organized search for knowledge and answers to questions. Another experts, Macmillan and Schumacher 1989, define research as a systematic process of collecting and logically analyzing information or data for some purpose. According to Hinato et al. 1993, it is a process of obtaining knowledge through techniques where truth, accuracy, validity, reliability, and other criteria can be ascertained. And according to Lee 1993, research it is a critical and exhaustive investigation or experimentation, having for it aim to discovery of new facts and the correct interpretation, the revision of accepted conclusions, theories, or laws in the light of newly discovered facts, or the practical application of such conclusions, theories, or laws. The nature and relevance of research. It is a systematic inquiry geared toward providing information to solve problems, according to Emory 1995. And according to Bigger and Gale 1996, the nature and relevance of research is it is a systematic and empirical approach to answering questions. It is concerned with understanding phenomenon within the context of our theories and experiences regarding the phenomenon. According to Charles 1998, it is a continuous discovery and exploration of the unknown. It entails an investigation of new facts, leading to the discovery of new ideas, new methods, or improvements. From the foregoing definitions, it is evident that research is the process. As a process, however, research is systematic. Systematic na nag-process na mo. May step 1, may step 2, may step 3, may step 4, 6, 5. Organized, no? Objective. Di nga, kung gusto lang ka, no? Decision mo, mo sunod. Nito sa objective, dapat fair ang pag-decision mo base sa result ng study. Critical, exhaustive, and comprehensive. It is done for the purpose of solving a problem or adding to the body of existing knowledge. In addition to the foregoing, it has to be emphasized at this point that without discovery, there is no research to speak of. Let us move on to the characteristics of research. As already pointed out, research as a process has several distinguishing characteristics. These characteristics differentiate research from other methods of gaining knowledge. Let us go over some of these characteristics. No? Number one, systematic. It is systematic as there are interrelated steps or procedures a researcher has to observe in solving a problem. When we say interrelated steps, may connection ta na sa kasarakag, sara hindi pwede nga mag-jump ka sa final steps. So, it should be start from step 1, step 2, and step 3 to step 4 and 5. No? It originates with a problem. No? You have to come up with a problem. That's why I required everyone um, to formulate a problem that you feel applicable in this time of pandemic, which unders or falls under the maritime discipline. No? Yes. Okay. Unahan ginahin natin mag-query na kita kung ano ba na ang gusto natin i-solve o kung i-research. No? Okay? Followed by the gathering of data in the logically and orderly manner. No? That's why, pamangkot ko ka mo earlier, no? Previous week na the research, ano ba ini, ang problem niya lang ini, available, hindi sa accessible ang data sa locality, dali na makuha ang data, o kung mabundayanin ka mo makuha sa data. No? So, i-consider man na natin no, steps. No? And it should be guided by a reasonable guess or hypothesis. No? And ends with a conclusion based on the observable facts or data. So, base sa gingather natin nga data, no, we will come up with a certain conclusions. No? Base sa data nga na-collect natin. Next, objective. It is not based on guesswork. No? Hindi siya hula-hula lang. This is because empirical data have to be gathered by the researcher prior to making the conclusion or proposing new solution to an identified difficulty or problems. No? So nagabase ka sa sa problems. Hindi ka magbase sa hula-hula lang, no. Next, it should be comprehensive. If a researcher is serious about understanding a phenomenon, he needs to examine and analyze all aspects or angle before making a generalization or conclusion. So, bilang future researcher kita, no, i-analyze natin ang ating study, no. At least kita come up with a certain conclusion. Critical. This means that procedures employed by the researcher must be able to withstand critical scrutiny by other researchers. No? Tanan nga mga procedures na ginagamit mo, tanan nga data, tanan nga mga appropriate methodology, appropriate statistical steps or formula ang ginagamit natin, can it be appropriate balay na siya sa study nga ginconduct ninyo, ano? So next, valid. Whenever a researcher formulate conclusions, they have to be used on actual findings. Kung ano ang nakita natin, o ano discover natin, o ano ang findings nga out of the data nga gin-gather natin, amura dapat ang natin, no? Amura dapat, dyan kita na dapat na base natin ang conclusion lang not outside the box, no? Within lang kita sa findings nga generate kang aton nga study or research. Another one, verifiable. Research is said to be verifiable as other researchers can check on the correctness of the results by replicating the study. Yes, because our study or our research can be replicated by other researchers. That is why dapat ma-verify kita na, no? Based on the methods and procedures employed by the researchers. No? So, the research must be verifiable. The last one, empirical. Research is empirical as generalization drawn by the researcher are rooted upon hard evidence gathered from information collected from real-life experiences of observation. Empirical tanan guys because nga ang data na na collect base sa sa real life experiences or observations, no, sa halin sa aton nga respondents, no. Nabual mo bala ini nga data halin mismo sa respondents, no, halin mismo sa target nga respondents mo o kung ano mo lang siya pinagpatan mo lang, no. So it should be empirical. Let's move on to the value of research. There are different ways by which we can obtain knowledge and information, according to Frinkel and Wallen, 1993. Since there are various means by which knowledge can be derived, we may be tempted to ask why we have to be knowledgeable of the scientific research methodology. Before answering this question, let us consider the different methods of knowing and acquiring knowledge. How? No? Paano natin siya ano ang mga methods, no, of knowing and acquiring knowledge? Number one, expert opinion. Ano ni siya, no? Is one of the sources of knowledge. When we have legal problems, we seek the advice of lawyers, di ba? Sa lawyers kita pamangkot alang-alang sa ibang mga discipline, for example sa teacher timo mga kang advice kay why man na siya why man nila giniskwelahan ang pagiging legal o kon attorney, no. When we are ill, we consult physicians, no. Suppose your family doctor told you that you are afflicted with cancer and that you have only 1 week to live. Will you believe him right away? Others will advise you to seek a second or even a third opinion. Yes, amo gani na guys kasi may mga result bala sa medical ninyo nga first test niyo pa lang may for example color blind findings ninyo nga color blind ka mo kung may defects sa inyong mata. Di lagi ka mo mag-discourage because even nga sa research na gina-encourage ang second or even third opinion, no. Kaya iba-iba ba yung interpretation, iba-iba ang findings. So kung colorblind ko sa doktor nga diyan mangita ka sang similar or nga expertise nga doktor nga align sa ophthalmologist man na o sa mata, pag ito mapacheck pag kamo dito, i-ano mo siya, i-verify mo siya kung bala ano giman ikaw color blind ka. So kung sa second opinion mo kung color blind ka giman, so that means na ang previous mga test na support kang current nga result, okay? Pero kung second opinion okay man 20/20 visions ka, so ano ka i-ano mo pagid siya, i-verify mo pagid siya sa another doctor, no, expert sa mata. Kag kung ang second opinion kag ang third opinion puros okay, adequate ang 20/20 vision nyo, meaning okay siya, no, acceptable ang findings na. So the foregoing situation points only to one thing, that even an expert opinion can be doubted. That's why guys, no, first opinion, try kung hindi siya successful, try pag sa second and third opinion. The next one, sensory experience, can also be a way of obtaining information. Through our sense of sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, we can immediately know something. Sensory knowledge, however, is not always dependable. Take, for instance, the case of two young men who were asked by their English professor to describe the lady passing by the corridor. One of them said she is beautiful. The other remarked, she's just an ordinary woman. Others gain knowledge through agreement with others. When confronted with a problem, we tend to ask friends and even colleagues that they did when they experience the same difficulty. In the process of soliciting their advice, don't be surprised if they do not give the same suggestion on what to do. This only knows that the aforementioned mode of knowing is not also a reliable source of knowledge. Siyempre, kung mangkot iba-ibahan ba ang opinion pag tao. So, kung mangkot ko sa hindi consistent, kung mangkot sa iba man ang nasabat. We can also gain knowledge by reasoning. Sometimes, reasoning is derived from general observation to particular or specific cases. So ang istorya ba ang sa katao nagarason kita kay base sa anang experience no. O kun sana nga naobserbahan sa lugar sa bintana no. This kind of reasoning is called deduction. On the other hand, reasoning can also be inductive or from the particular to the general. Consider the following syllogism. Syllogism. All men are mortal. Gary is a man. Therefore, Gary is mortal. Is that conclusion correct? Definitely it is. Why? This is because the first two statements or conditions are correct. We don't have to rely on our senses nor seek agreement with others to confirm veracity. Examine the next syllogism. If it rains, the ground is wet. The ground is wet, therefore it rained. Can we consider the conclusion correct? Definitely not. Although the first two statements are correct, it does not follow that the conclusion is right. Why? It does not mean that the wetness of the ground is only caused by rain, right? This only means that there are dangers in logical reasonings that we need to be aware of. No? So, wala ka kamaan di lang na, ano ba, di lang man ang rason nga naguran na basa ang lupa. No? Basta talagang basa ka na ni nanay mo tura ang lupa kay nainit ang chimpo, no? Kaya yapok. So, that's why gani nga, we have to be aware on the logical reasoning of a certain individual. The other one, common sense, is also a way of knowing. All of us use common sense, yet it is difficult to define. The major problem with common sense is that it is not a systematic way of gaining knowledge. Okay? And the last one, research is another method of obtaining information. It is, however, the most reliable source of knowledge. Mura kano guys among the mentioned of methods of knowing and acquiring knowledge, research kano guys ang pinaka reliable no source of knowledge because research utilizes the scientific method. When we say scientific method, kung dumduman nyo sa high school kamo, kung mag experiment kamo sa science, di ba? It has systematic way, no? Determining relationship. Meaning, step by step na from problem, second, methods, third, data, mamula, exclusion. So this method involves 5 distinct steps. Muna siya. Namely, identification of the problem. That's why ang balko para samtang naga-discuss kita, ginpa-require ko lagi ka mo mag-identify o kung look for a problem nga researchable sa area niyo para dasig lang mag-gather ka data para within the duration of semester may matapos kita nga research no hindi nga lesson ka siya tapos next ang data gathering mabudlay na guys, so we have to double time this time kaya I foresee na nga kung himuon natin siya nga strategy no may matapos kita nga research within the duration of semester. Okay, the first distinct steps: identification of the problem, definition of the problem. Define natin ang problem nga ano nga kinahanglan natin na conduct nga research siya no, is it timely and relevant no sa maritime industry. Hindi na kita basta-basta mag-conduct research nga wala man ti rason, wala man ti to definite nga reasons no. So the third one is formulation of hypothesis no, projection of the consequences and testing of the hypothesis. We have to be familiar with the research process as it is only through research that we can gain valid and reliable knowledge. So, kung iba nito guys, no, kung gamit kita expert opinion, yes, no, can it be, but as mentioned earlier, gani, no, hindi tanan nga advice ng expert reliable, valid man. Okay? Just like as mentioned earlier, you know nga, kung mag-fail ka sa medical mo first test mo, pili ka seek for second and third opinion. No? Pas na ka lang mabuhay ka pag exam ka dyan, kung na-failed ka sa first take mo, pili ka pa kabuhay ka second and third. Kaya ngunira ang kung na-fail ka man ka dyan, so it's okay nga maybe next attempt mo, makapasal ka o kang exam mo. Sige. Let's proceed to the types of research. What are the different ways of classifying research? On the basis of who undertakes research, research can be either academic research or research project. So, academic research is one conducted by individual in fulfilling the requirements for the conferment of an academic title or degree. No, maybe may sample of this thesis, master's thesis, feasibility studies, and doctoral dissertation fall under this type of research. So, amo dyan guys, ang inyo ko dyan, no, undergraduate thesis, no, na fall ka mo dyan kara sa academic research, no. So, by the end of the semester, dapat may thesis ka mo nga matapos, you know. Okay. And the other one, research project, it's a type of research undertaken by individual or group of individuals part of their professional work or assignment. No? Muna siya, mo dyan amon ginaobrar guys, kaya ano kami rin, no? Professional kami rin, no? Nagakanda kami kang research project, no? Kung research nga para sa among nga advancement, professional advancement. A market researcher surveying the preference of housewives for a particular brand of soap, for instance, is doing a research project. No? Based on the final use or application of the research results, research can either be pure, theoretical, or applied, practical. When we say pure or theoretical research, is one done for the purpose of formulating a theory, principle, or law with no intended application of research. Research in this case is undertaken for the purpose of gaining knowledge, for knowledge's sake. Conversely, applied research is an inquiry to test or evaluate a theory or knowledge arrived at in the solution of the problem or for useful ends. So, kita kara sa applied research na mag-focus lang. Kayo will be using the result, no, for the improvement or for the formulation of a certain for the improvement of the policies, can it be in school or in the maritime industry. No? Okay, next. When methodology or research design is used as basis for categorizing research, research can take any of the following types. Number one, descriptive, correlational, exploratory, ex post facto, or causal, comparative, experimental, historical, and ethnographic. You know. When we say descriptive research, this type of research seeks to describe systematically, factually, accurately, and objectively a situation, problem, or phenomenon. It seeks to describe what is, kung ano gid bala, no, ang problema nga dyan, no, ano ang naga-existing na problem, no, na dapat natin solusyonan. A psychology student who is assessing the work values of a group of rank and file employee in one company is actually doing a descriptive research. No? Kaya gusto na i-assess ang work values of a group of rank and file employees. So, na-fall na sa descriptive research. Let's move to correlational or associational research. From the word correlation, so correlate mo siya, compare mo siya, no? Relationship ng dalawa nga dyan, no? Ng dalawa kang variable nga dyan. In this type of research, the investigator tries to prove on the significance of the relationship between two or more factors or characteristics. Gusto na nga i-prove, no? Or prove. Gusto na discover ang relasyon ng dalawa ka characteristics na dyan. For example, a researcher who undertake a study to find out the significance of association between job performance and commitment is doing a correlational research. Kaya, job performance and commitment, no, two different factors or characteristics. So gusto kang researcher nga i-prove na kung bala may relasyon gid man ang job performance kag commitment kang employer ay na siya no? Sa employer ay sa certain organization no? And next, explanatory research. In this type of inquiry, the researcher seek to clarify why and how a relationship exists between two or more aspects of a situation or phenomenon. Question like why job stress contributes to burnout or why low morale can lead to lower productivity among employees are problems which can be investigated systematically through an exploratory research design. Okay. The next one, exploratory research. This kind of study is undertaken when the investigator is after probing or exploring areas where little is known about the research problem. Feasibility and pilot studies fall under this type of research. Um, kung wala pa na, no, wala pa, kung may gamay pa lang nakakandak sa study, kang research nga ra, so, uh, then we tend to probe or explore that area, no. So, mga example na kara feasibility or pilot studies. No? The next one, experimental research. This type of research probes into the cause and effect by exposing one or more experimental groups to one or more treatments or conditions. For example, when a mathematics professor is after determining the effectiveness of a learning module or pocket in raising the performance of his students, is actually engaging experimental research. Ano lang, cause and effect you guys, prior and after, no? Gusto na nga i-assess, no? Kung ba na effective ang module kung performance, no? Pocket in raising the performance of the students, no? But this type of research guys medyo pamudlay dyan no, sa tiyempo ka dyan nga pandemic no kaya di probably face to face so this also applies sa mga science natin may mga experiment ka mo dyan no. The other one, ex post factor causal comparative research. Research is of this type when the investigator delves in analyzing the possible effect of a factor which cannot be manipulated and controlled. A guidance counselor is after singling out the variables associated with failing marks in some college courses or health science student who is interested in the incidence of lung cancer among heavy smokers are examples of situations where this type of research is appropriate to employ. Historical research is in historical research, the researcher attempts to reconstruct the past objectively and accurately or to explain an incident that happened in the past with the use of data taken from the past. For instance, why the Filipino elite collaborated with the American imperialists during the American regime can be best answered through the aforementioned research methodology. So, sample na kala guys ng mga story about sa story ng Philippines no. So maybe pili nato na imuan kang research ang mga story kang maritime no. Why is it Philippines become the first main source of seafarers no. A major source of seafarers in the world no but okay. The last one, ethnographic research. This type of research is done when the researcher is concerned with explaining or describing a phenomenon holistically with the use of multiple data collection techniques. Topics like the culture of law, undergraduate students of Rizal University, the teaching of accounting in selected business administration schools in the national capital region lends themselves to these research types. No? With reference to the field of knowledge, where the problem being studied is associated with research may be historical, sociological, educational, psychological, nursing, or even medical. So, among these types of research, no, we'll only focusing guys, no, kay since undergraduate pa lang amo, so mas hapos lang na ang type kang research nga i-focusan lang natin ang under, can it be fall under the descriptive research and correlational research, no? Kaya ang iba, the rest of this, pang ano, pang doctorate, yung dyan, pang masteral. Kung kaya nyo, no? Kung pili natin ma-cover within the semester. So, ito lang na kita, mas-stick lang kita sa descriptive and correlational. Okay, let's move on to the research process. As a systematic process solving a problem or adding to the existing body of knowledge, research is not haphazardly done. It follows a standard procedure in a logical sequence of steps, which are discussed and explained below. Step 1. Idea generating phase. Research begins with an idea in which the researcher has interest. Di man pwede ka guys kakandak yung mong kang research nga outside your area of discipline. Okay. Example, kita maritime kita. So, focus lang kita sa maritime researchable nga mga problems, no? Di kita rin magsagi explore sa iba nga mga discipline ay outside rin ng ating area of discipline, no? It is in this place wherein the researcher has to identify topics that interest him the most, you know. So, ang pinaka-convenient nyo guys nga problem, no? Pwede natin nga i-conduct sang research, no? It is in this step where he has to justify why a study on the particular topic is needed. That's why sa meeting natin, you have to justify, no, ang pili ninyo lang mga research. Once a topic of interest is already identified, the researcher has to start reading articles and books, talk with people who are knowledgeable in the area, and begin thinking about it, no? So, sa tatlo nga gina-require ko yung researchable problem, so we have to justify, no, we have to select the best research, no, timely kag relevant ka dyan nga tempo kag ano natin na siya, no, pisahan natin na siya guys, tipunan kang mga articles, no, nga mag-support yung study, no, yung mga related literatures, no. Step 2, problem definition phase. As the ideas generated in the first phase are very general or vague, the researcher has to refine them. This is the problem definition phase. This step involves the following activities: identification and definition of the variables to be studied. You have to identify and define the variables to be studied. For example, ano ang study nyo? For example, study nyo about sa ano ba it means? Problems. Okay, as I will base on my research na lang. Okay, about sa authentic assessment and academic performance among the maritime students at the University of Antigua. So, we have to identify and define the variables. Ano ang mga involved yung variables na kada ng students? So, students, mga involved yung variables yung gusto ko nga i-apply sa akin nga research, no? For example, edad mo, no? Location, so diin ka nag-star ka dyan, pwede man involve natin ang socio-economic, no, kang inyong family, no? Educational background, no, kang parents mo, no, kag location kang imong residence. So those are only an example of variables na pili natin nga i-tawan kang or focusan kang study. Development of the theoretical and conceptual framework of the study, no? So you have to look into theories nga makasupport ng ating research and conceptualize natin ang ating research. Ano ba na ang direction sini, no? Ano ang gusto nyo natabo sa research nyo dyan. the formulation of the major and specific problems to be investigated, and the formulation of hypothesis. Ano ang mga problems gusto nyo investigate out of this title? No? So we will go through with this. The step 3, procedures design phase. After identifying the problems and hypothesis, the researcher has to decide on the methods and procedures he will use in the collection of analysis of data. So ano ang appropriate methods no, and procedures na gamitin natin no, in collecting the data. So that's why ganing we will only focus on the descriptive no, and correlational methods of research. No? Mas ano lang siya, mas dali lang siya i-retrieve no, ang gather ng data. Step 4, data collection phase. After preparing the research plan, the researcher has to proceed collecting the data from the subjects of the study. It is in this phase where the procedures designed in the previous step are implemented by the researchers rigorously. So, it's critical, guys, to follow the procedures, steps in data collection. No? So, paano ang mga procedure ini? So we will, I think we'll go through with the next topic na. I-discuss natin na sa next topic. Step 5, data analysis phase. In this particular phase, the researcher analyzes the collected data from the previous step based on his data analysis plan. Appropriate qualitative and quantitative techniques and procedures are then applied to the data that have been recorded, coded, and tabulated. So that's why as mentioned, ang data nga to, natin to guys, i-analyze natin, no, gamitan natin sa appropriate, no, qualitative and quantitative techniques and procedures, no. And it should be recorded, coded, and tabulated. And ito kita kara ma-base natin nga results, no, conclusions natin. Step 6, interpretation phase. No? Having analyzed the data, since once na-analyze na natin, we are using PSS, no? The latest version to process and to analyze the data predasig ng tanan. Ano ta na application ta nala guys na i-encode lang natin ang data kung i-process natin using this application. Yes, step 6, interpretation phase. Having analyzed the data, the researcher continues to make sense out of the data by interpreting the results in terms of how they aid in responding to the research problem posed at the beginning of the study and how this answer contributes to knowledge in the field. So, mas stick kita guys sa problems guys. Hindi kita magwa sa problems. So that's why when interpreting the data, we will just only focus on the problem, no? How it responds to the problem, no? And how it contributes to the knowledge in the field. No? After generating answers to the problem, the researcher has to compare the results predicted based on the theoretical framework of the study. No? So, kung dapat may theory kita guys para kaya mura ang basihan natin, no? I-compare natin ang results, no, base man sa gina-predict ang theory nga no. So mas when I say mas nami guys kung ang atin nga research supported with a certain theory, mas mas nami ang impact na no. Last step, step 7, communication phase. After completing the data analysis and interpretation phase, says the researcher has to prepare a written or oral report of the study conducted, either for publication or presentation to colleagues or the panel of experts. This report has to include description of all the above steps in the research process. So, ang muna ang pinaka-last na step natin guys, kung natapos na inyong research, no, iyan natin na i-present nyo na sa panel, no, composed of me as your advisor and invited panelist, no, in a person man kang Sir Noni Maravillas na di ang ating isa sa mga invited panels and external panels para i-ano natin i-ano natin dyan, no, i-defend yung inyong study para maging ano pagitan, ano, para ma-strengthen ang result kung may area of improvement, maano pagit siya ma-correctionan pagitana para ano tala, no, ang study natin pili siya i-publish kung i-present, no, sa international forum, no, ano ta na magiging part na guys kang new knowledge, no, that would help, no, our maritime industry. That ends our topic 1 about the nature and relevance of research.